Well, welcome back everyone to another episode of Meet the Author. Today we have Rebecca here. Rebecca, thank you so much for jumping on and being willing to talk.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited that you're here. I always like to start these author interviews with just a very basic, easy kind of icebreaker question to get this going. So I have to know, are you a dog or a cat person?
Oh, this is so hard. We have both.
Okay.
I'm more of a dog person, but I think as I'm getting older, I love the idea that like cats are a little less maintenance and I can like go places I can be gone for longer, especially traveling with book signings and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So, but the dog.
I feel like dogs are good for like, if you need a cuddle or if it's cold, like right now it's obviously winter. So like when it's cold at night, you want to like have the fire on, just like cuddle under a blanket with your pet. Like it's
Yes.
more dogs, I feel like, than cats. Like cats are kind of like, no, thank you. Like I want to go do my own thing. But I can totally see where you're coming from. It's like traveling and stuff like that. You just kind of leave their little box and like they're really fine.
Yes, exactly. Somebody can check in on them every day or so, and that's all they need.
We have a dog that I always like to joke is a cat. Like she does her own thing all the time. She only goes out like once a day. She very rarely wants love and attention. So it's like
Aw,
best of both worlds because we don't actually have any cats, but we have a dog that basically
yeah.
is a cat, and then we have another dog who's like wants attention 24/7. She's a mini Australian Shepherd, but we call them Velcro Aussies because it's like if I'm somewhere, she's right there. If I'm in the kitchen, she's right
Yeah.
with me. If I'm in the bathroom, she's right there.
She will follow you to the ends of the earth, yeah.
She's the definition of a Velcro Aussie. Well, again, thank you so much for jumping on here
Yeah, of
today.
course.
For anyone who maybe this is, their first time being introduced to you, they haven't, picked up any of your books or they just stumble upon this on YouTube or on my Spotify, kind of just real quickly give us a view of, who is Rebecca, kind of how you got into writing and, the genre that you like to write in and just basically, people so they know who you are if they're picking up one of your books.
Sure. I'm Rebecca. I am a romance author. I primarily write new adult romance, which is kind of that like 18 to 25-year-old main characters. I also just recently started writing young adults, so I will also be doing that. Um, And yeah, I write fun, happy, sporty, little bit of spice, depending on, the age demographic, romance novels, basically.
How did you said you obviously started mainly like when I found you, you were doing, more the new adult kind of romances, but you are getting into the more young adult. What was the decision like that you were like, okay, I've been doing this for a while and kind of wanting to branch into something new? Was that like you wanted to do that, or maybe someone was like, hey, you should like tap into this market too, kind of situation?
It was a little bit of both. So when I first started thinking about writing a book, for me, writing was something I always said I was going to do. I was always going to write a book. I went to school for English and writing, and then I did like technical writing as opposed to creative writing because it just wasn't really the market wasn't what it is now. It was much more guarded by traditional and like, submitting stuff. And anyway, but the first books I tried to write were like middle grade esque, um, maybe slightly young adult, but more of that middle grade. And I just was really struggling to get into the voices at the time of like a middle grader. And then I was reading a lot of romance at the time. So, and they were a little bit, especially those first indie books, a lot of them were those like new adults. Like if you think
Hmm.
about it, 50 Shades of Grey, she's just finishing college. She's, like a lot of them were kind of fit in that new adult genre. So I was reading a lot of new adult, and that's what I eventually was able to kind of get the voice for and write. But then fast forward, how many ever years later that I've been doing this, 7 maybe. Um, my agent came to me and was like, "Hey, what do you think about trying, a young adult book? I think you have a good voice for it, that kind of stuff." So I was like, "Actually," and I have kids. My daughter is now a teenager, so I like kind of have a better feel for that voice now, which is funny to think of like 15 years later, which is about how long it took me from when I was, thinking about writing it till I actually wrote it. That like being that much older would actually make my voice better equipped for that because I'm back in that like mind frame with my daughter. So
Hmm. Do
so
you ever
that's how this came about.
do you ever let your daughter, being teenager, like read any of your books, or are you like, no, when you're older, then maybe you can get to that point?
She
Or
has
does she
not
even want to
read.
read them? I know for some kids, it's
Yeah.
Oh, my parent does this, like, I don't wanna know that, or versus other one, it's like, "No, I wanna read everything mom writes," type of
Yeah,
situation.
for a lot of years, she had no interest in reading it. The last year or 2, she's asked, and I was kinda like, "Maybe just wait a little bit." But she's not a big reader
Mhm.
anyway. I mean, she goes through phases, and when she does read, she's more fantasy. She did read the first YA book that came out. She'll read the others. She was my first beta reader for that, which was fun. So she reads those, but the adult ones she has not read.
Maybe we'll give it a little bit more time.
Yeah,
Let her get just a little bit older since, they're not the world's spiciest books ever, but when you think about, writing things like that,
yeah.
"Oh, my kid's reading that."
And
Maybe
it being your mom is, like, weird too, so yeah, I just let's just wait.
definitely, definitely understand. Well, obviously, you're about to have a book come out. We're recording this a few days before the book actually does come out, but it'll be posted sometime this week for release week. How are you feeling right now? That comeback's about to be out there. You've been writing, and obviously, I feel like especially when I talk to authors, it's like okay, the book that you're about to release, you're already past that, and you're writing something else and everything. But how does it feel that you've worked so hard on this book and now readers about to have it?
This is, like, such a fun time for me right before it comes out because early readers are reading it, and generally your early readers are the ones who love your books, and so they're reading it, they're excited, they're talking about it, but it's still sort of this safe space where you still are hopeful and excited about all the possibilities, like, things that don't even make sense, like, it's gonna be a bestseller in, 15 countries, like, you know what I mean? It's like have all that hopeful excitement, about it, and not that release takes away from that, but it sort of belongs to the readers once it releases, whereas right now it still feels like mine, but I'm excited. I am really excited for people to read it. I just, there's something special about this week before it's really out there.
This is obviously the third book in this Holland Brothers series. What would you say, like in this series, was this an easier book to write? Because a lot of times talking to authors, it's like the further you get into a series, you just know the voices and the characters and stuff a little bit better. But sometimes maybe you connect with a different character a little bit more than another. Do you feel like this one was easier for you to write, or do you feel like you were like, okay, I love this, but I liked other characters better, or maybe like, book four, obviously people are excited about that. You just released the cover for that, which is beautiful, by the way.
Thanks.
So excited for that. How has kind of this one fit in with, the series that you have planned?
I think I just felt more pressure for this one. The hero in this, Archer, is deaf, and I really wanted to do that justice. Obviously, I'm not deaf, so I have experience on the working and being sensitive to it from a hearing perspective. But what I was writing his perspective, I really wanted to make sure I was doing it justice. So I felt nervous about that, and I think that made it a tiny bit harder, but I just love him so much, and I just fell even more in love with him while I was writing him. So they were an easy couple to write when I could like let go of those expectations and that pressure. They just felt so natural together that that part was easy for me.
What was that research like for you? This is, totally, I mean, it's on topic, but like I really
Yeah,
loved it too because I know ASL. I'm not fluent by any means, but I took it for 7 years. So, like, getting to see that ASL representation and stuff like that, like, to me, it was just like so awesome. And I think you did it really well. I personally, again, I loved it and I enjoyed it so much. But what was that kind of research for you, like trying to be like, okay, like you said, you want to do this justice. You obviously are hearing, he's deaf. Like, how was trying to be able to put yourself in his headspace and do it correctly? What kind of
yeah.
process was that like for you?
So, I mean, I've been writing him for several books, so I've been doing it a little at a time, kind of as I've gone, but I have learned so much. I have sensitivity readers who have helped me and have been great. They've read each book and kind of given me feedback. And there have been like just little things that I would not thought of. Like at first when I was writing, anytime somebody was signing, I was really careful that they had both hands available. And then she was like, "No, we don't need one of the ladies was like, "We don't need both hands. We'll make it work with one. Like, we've got this." So there were just some misconceptions I had, like little things like that. Um, but I will say one of the best, like just to get in the mindset or just think through scenarios, was like TikTok, Reels. Like there are so many people out there sharing their life and their experiences. There's this guy, and I really need to go find him. He is on TikTok. He's a construction worker, and I only know this, or he's like some sort of, because he's always in his like orange vest and hard hat. And he's deaf, and he does signs every day on TikTok. And like he'll do funny ones too. Like people ask him to do like the one that I remember is somebody asked him, how do you do fuck around and find out? And I don't remember the actual sign, but like he would talk about how to do, and so there's people like that. There's also families. I follow this one family on Instagram who the husband is deaf, but the wife is an interpreter,
Mhm.
and talking about how they do certain things, like how they get his attention and, like in the house, and just little things like that, just getting a glimpse into their life was so fun and made me feel a little bit more like I was on the right track, or I had at least considered certain things that I maybe
Mhm.
would not have.
That's awesome. I think it's important that, like you said, had those people to read it and, kind of give you tips and tricks like that, but also that you wanted to do your own research, that you were able to go. And I think TikTok is honestly so helpful. I
It
hope it
can
doesn't
be.
go away just because, I mean, obviously it's done measures, I would say, for book talk in general, for authors and people to find books and reading and stuff like that. But just even again, for what you said, you found this person that you were able to just go and get his experience and see what things are like. And I just think that's so cool that you were able to do that, and again that you wanted to do that too.
Yeah. I mean, I like research in general. I mean, I don't want to like super like deep dive. I know a lot of people who will, go in shadow, or maybe some people in my situation would have went and learned ASL. I know a little, but not enough to, even really carry on a conversation. So some people do that form. I like the sleuthing and the just getting, kind of a baseline for lots of different topics.
I think that's great. I think that's so awesome. For this book, again, people getting excited about it. Obviously, it's part of a series, but it technically can be read by itself. But we have a football player, obviously MMC, who is deaf, and then she is his friend's sister, dancer, and it's kind of I don't want to say it's not like enemies to lovers, but there's kind of a little bit of like tension, at the beginning between these two. And then, obviously they're roommates and they're forced to be around each other. And there's kind of some like sneaking around and stuff like that. Was that fun for you to write kind of those types of tropes that it's like forced proximity? Do you enjoy those? Or do you find,
I
I know some
do.
people like don't like doing like the, friends, brother, sister type situation or forced proximity. Did you like doing that for this one?
I did. So this was like, I felt like a unique brother's best friend because it wasn't, I mean, there's like sneaking around and all of that, but I knew that the brother was never going to like,
Yeah.
hate this hero. There's just, the brother is the type of character who just couldn't hate anyone if you tried. So I knew that that was going to be different, even though it was like a brother's best friend, it was going to have a different
Hmm.
feel. But I love the roommate situation where you're just sort of forced. It's like an intimate thing where you let down your guard in your house
Hmm.
or in your room or whatever, and to have this person that you have tension with right there in times when you maybe don't want them to be was definitely fun. Yeah, I love that.
No, I think I said it was so good. It was cute. It was spicy. I just overall it was so fun, and it was so nice to see other characters. Too. Again, it's part of a series, obviously, but I feel like you did it really well. Also, for people who like maybe haven't read, the first two books, that there was never a point like because I just started with this one, and then like I've since gone back and I started reading book one. But I was never like, oh, I'm so confused. I don't know what's going on. I
Oh,
think you did
good.
really well. That it's like obviously prefer people reading the series, but if someone was to just pick up this book, I don't feel like there was ever a point that I was lost. Like you explained things so well, who the couples were and how they were all related, the sip, like it was all so well done. So I obviously applaud you for that. But how does that, when you're putting these together, obviously again, it's part of a series, but you do want people to be able to read the books, kind of as you find them. How do you, when you're plotting a book out, be like, okay, I have to explain this again, but not like over explain it. But like, how does that kind of process look like?
It's so hard, especially the farther you get into a series, because people who have read the entire series want a little glimpse of the people before,
Hmm.
but you don't want new people to feel like they're missing out because, Um, generally speaking, I try not to worry about it too much as I'm going through the first time. But then when I start to have beta readers or editors, I'm like, okay, have we Like, have we explained everything? Have we, does this make sense? Is it enough? I don't want to spend the first two chapters, telling you everything
Yeah.
that you need to know, but I also don't want you to not know. So this one was a little bit tricky just because of the setup of the sister,
Mhm.
knowing who she is and why they have this tension between each other, because that's not on the page. I mean, the tension's on the page, but the what happened is not on the page.
Mhm.
So yeah, this one was a little bit trickier, and just it gets trickier because it's a third book. There's, two other books before it trying to show some sort of love to those books.
Yeah, I definitely, I can see how that gets tricky the further along you get into a series. What is your process just like in general? You have this obviously series, you already have book four that you have a cover for and everything. I'm assuming you're working on, or maybe you're even past that. I don't know how far advanced, you're working, but kind of walk me through what it's like from when you have these ideas in your head and you're like, okay, I know what I want to write now. Lay it out for me, like how you get from the idea in your head to it's about to be, time to be published and everyone's talking about this book and you've made it happen.
Yeah, so it's for me, I am a plotter, so I will start pretty early out. So I'm writing the fourth book right now. I'm and that's the last book in the series. So I'm beginning to plot, like I know the characters and sort of the setup for the first book in a new series. I don't have a
Mhm.
title, I don't know, details, but I start working on the next series while I'm writing so I'm thinking about it already for lots of reasons. One, because I'm trying to get like a little bit ahead. I'm not ahead very much right now, so I'm trying to get there. But also, just the like, I need to think about things longer. So the longer it can sort of be in the back of my mind.
Mhm.
So for the Holland Brothers, I started thinking about the series when I was writing the Wallflowers, which there's like a link there. The last Wallflower book is the first brother in the series.
Mhm.
So they're loosely connected. So I started thinking about it then. And so that was what? That was 2 years ago. So it takes a while, but I plot out pretty much. I want to make sure I know who all the books are about.
Mhm.
And roughly, I try to think about what tropes would lend themselves well to each other because I don't want to end up where I'm writing five best friends brothers or five, whatever. Like I want them to be varied.
Mhm.
So I usually try and get that sort of information. So if I know like the sort of the series, what the books are going to be about. This in this case, it's brothers,
Mhm.
and who the characters are going to be. Which again, in this one it was easy because it's the brothers, and then kind of what the the order will be like. So for this one, I started with Knox, who is not the oldest brother, but the second one, but he is the guardian to the brother who is the last book. And that was because I wanted to give the youngest brother time to get old enough to have a book. Because in the first book he's 17. So I'm like,
Mhm.
I need you to age up a little bit. So the order of the books is something I plot out ahead of time, although I have shifted on those things before, but
Uh-huh.
as long as I have a rough idea of it, basically. That's the detail to which I plot out.
I like that managed to, you connect your series too, which I can't even begin to like I obviously so many authors do that, but I feel like I get so lost too, like just being the author itself, be like, okay, so this was a different series and I talked about this, but now I'm starting this series, but I have to remember these details of these people and like these places. And now it's like, okay, the further you try to connect series along, obviously, again, readers, we love it, but I'm sure for you, it's like, what did I write? It's been
Yeah.
3, 4 years. What did I say?
Yeah, I have one beta reader who this is her superpower. She will remember, like, you said he didn't like coffee and now he's drinking coffee. And I'm like, oh, nice catch. So I have one beta reader who this really is her superpower. But yes, it is hard, even from book to book. Like sometimes you just might say something offhand. You don't mean to make it their entire personality or make it like something they feel really strongly about. But then if you don't explain why you've, switched it up in the next book, readers are like, "Wait, this is wrong." So, yeah, it can get tricky.
I I can definitely see how it would get tricky. Obviously, again, these series, a lot of them, this one specifically, this book is, football. But when I met you, my introduction to you was your Wildcat, your hockey series. So what is it, about sports, obviously romance, that it seems you love to write? And what is it about the sports that you're just like, oh, this is, not that it's your niche, but I feel like in a sense, like you're great at them. So
Thank you. I it's funny because when I first started writing, I wrote a couple of small town books, and then I wrote an age gap, like just contemporary, straight contemporary. No, actually I wrote two, just straight contemporary. And I knew sports romance existed sort of, but I had just never considered writing it. But I love sports. Like I I I played sports as a kid. I follow sports teams. I mean, I'm not hardcore on any one specific thing, but I love sports in general. Give me a sports documentary every day. I've watched like 99% of them. Like I love sports stories. So it makes sense to me that I write it now, but it took me a while to get there. I actually read what led me to writing them was I read Kennedy Ryan's Long Shot book, which is about a
Mhm,
basketball player.
mhm.
Um, and like obviously Kennedy and I have totally different styles. She is not afraid to hit like a dark moment, and my books are more light and fun,
She'll
than
make you
hers. But
cry. She'll make you cry
yeah,
and not say sorry about it.
exactly. So our writing styles are totally different, but what I respected so much about that book was that I knew, as somebody who played basketball, knew basketball, I knew that she knew basketball. Like I could tell. It came
Mhm.
through in the story, her love of basketball. And that was the first time I had read a book where I could tell. Like a lot of times, and this is like no shade because obviously not everybody wants a lot of sports in their sports romance. But, like, some sports romances, it's just like he plays a sport and, like, you don't ever
You
actually
never
really
ever
see
see him
it or
actually
feel
play
it.
or practice or do
Yeah.
anything, and you're like, "Is this just not a regular romance that
Yeah.
called me something else?" Trust me, I get that because 'cause I'm a sports girly
Yeah.
too, and if I read one of those romances, I'm like,
And
why didn't we just make it
yeah.
a normal guy?" Like
And some people want those books or, like, sometimes the book just doesn't lends itself to, because 'cause I've written books where it's like, it's the off season or it's whatever, and it's harder to
Mhm.
write a lot of the sport. But that's what led me to writing it, is essentially I read Kennedy's book. I could tell she loved the sport, and I, for the first time, was like, "Oh my gosh, I could put sports in romances where, like, you could feel the sports in a different kind of way." And so, yeah. So
Do
here
you
I
feel like
am.
since you've done that, like, you feel like that's more of, like, where you find yourself the most comfortable because you do love sports so much that it's, like, it's just easier for you to write about stuff, obviously. I mean, it's gotta be easy to write about stuff that you love, when it comes to different sports and things like that.
It is, and I'm just, like, endlessly curious about them. Um, yeah, which is why I write all different. Like, I cannot stick with one. I'm sure people would like, a lot of people would probably prefer me to write just hockey all the time, and I love hockey, but I wanna explore all the all the sports? So, yeah, I just I love doing the research, and I love thinking about different sports and how their lifestyle might be different because of it.
Mhm. For, obviously this book is about to be out there in the world and we're very excited about it, but we don't want to spoil anything, for anyone who is obviously it's release week. Like, I got lucky, I got to read it early, but other people have not had that chance. But we do know, book four again is going to be Flynn's book. Can you give anyone, who is finding this and like, okay, I've read this now, I just need something, any little tease to get excited for the next book? Obviously, again, you posted on your Instagram the gorgeous cover reveal, which I'm so excited about.
Thank you. Yes, I'm obsessed with that cover. We had a vision for it, but I was like not sure if it was going to work. But oh, okay. So Flynn's book, you will know the heroine of Flynn's book after you read Comeback. So if you read Comeback and you're like, I'm pretty sure it's this person, I'm sure you are correct. But it is a baseball player, single mom. I've written single mom before, but it has been years. So I'm so excited to do another one. And they are just, it's got a little bit of that banter,
Mhm.
tension in the beginning. But oh, he is maybe the swooniest of the Holland brothers.
That's high praise.
Yeah, he's
That's
pretty swoony.
I mean, that's saying a lot, honestly, because we got some really good ones. That's so exciting. That's so awesome. And I think I have an idea. I'm not gonna again spoil anything, but that makes me excited. what's coming next. Well, again, I just want to say thank you, for chatting today. Is there anything, that you could say to readers, kind of as we're wrapping up to get them, like, hey, if they are maybe on the fence about starting, just like if you could say this series, if you could wrap it up in a couple of sentences, what they can expect and kind of get someone maybe be like, okay, you know what? I do want to pick this up actually.
Sure. The Holland Brothers is a 4-book series. It features three different sports, motocross. Well, actually, that's not true. It's 5 different sports: motocross, gymnastics, football, dance, and baseball. It's filled with brother chat text messages, and the heroes are super spoony. There's lots of banter, and it's just a fun, spoony, spicy, good time.
All of them are so cute. All of them are spicy. They're not overly spicy if anyone's worried about that. Like you're not gonna, have to clutch your pearls or anything like that. But it's a good time. Absolutely. Well, is there anything maybe you want to say to readers before we kind of wrap this up, just in general, as we're in release week? Anything that you just want people to know?
Just, I mean, how appreciative, like, I am, every author is, like, it's amazing to write a book and put it out into the world and for people to read it and connect with it or even not connect with it. Like, honestly, it's just this amazing thing to put something out in the world and know people are out there using it for entertainment. And yeah, we're just so grateful. I'm so grateful.
That's awesome. And I, again, as a reader, we thank you. We appreciate you because when we need just, take away from life and just after a long day, what do we want to do? I just want to pick up a romance book. And so the fact that you are out here giving us all the things that we need as a reader, we also say thank you. Well, thank you so much again for just chatting with me today. Before we wrap up, where can people get in contact with you best? Whether that's, Instagram, TikTok, where are you most active that if people are like, hey, I want to, keep more in touch. I want to see the cover reveals and things like that. Where can people best find you?
I'm most active on social media on Instagram, and I have a newsletter that we send out really regularly as well. So either on my newsletter, which you can find on the website, which is just RebeccaJenshak.com, or Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for jumping on today. I hope this is the best release. Gosh, that's
Thank
so hard to say.
you.
Release week ever. And I just know that again, I personally, I love the book. I love the representation of the ASL and just everything in general. And just the fact these two, I feel like their love is just so pure and it's so sweet in just so many ways. And I'm so excited for other people to read it. And I'm sure you're very excited for people to have it in their hands as well.
I am. Thank you so much for this.
Absolutely. And you guys make sure you're staying up to date on everything happening here at Michaela's Book Nook, whether it's on YouTube, my Spotify, TikTok, or more. And until next time, bye everyone.